My dear friends, this is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today I would very much like to conclude or wrap up our series of discussions on this channel with regard to the works that can be found in this brilliant set, Pioneers of African American Cinema. So once again, this is the curated collection of works curated by Charles Musser and Jacqueline Njuma Stewart. And this set here happens to be the 5-disc Blu-ray set released several years back by Kino Classics. However, there are other ways, other releases, other, say, streaming services, options, etc., through which or by which one can explore and enjoy and watch the works that are included. Pioneers of African American Cinema. So my choice has been this Kino Classics set. I've also enjoyed, for instance, the booklet, which is found in this particular set. It has a number of writings, included in which are an essay by Charles Musser, focusing in on what he refers to as the color line, and then also another essay by Jacqueline Njuma Stewart, focusing in on the social and historical trends and implications in the context of what she defines and discusses as race cinema. And then also there are a number of writings that have been mentioned over the course of various discussions made here on this channel. And so this set, this Kino Classics set, for me has been, just simply put, absolutely outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. You know, I am in no way an expert. I am in no way a scholar or an academic or an expert in this or any field of cinema. And so for someone in my position, in that way, to not just be able to watch these films, but also to get a sense of the scholarship through the well-written essays, plus the brilliant suggested reading list, the bibliography that is found at the very end of the essay, or the booklet, I should say. These points were very helpful, very illuminating for me, and I was able to catch up with not all, but some of the works that are found in that bibliography list. And so, and I should say too that based on my my ability to find, say, a number of those works, I could say that based on my experience, some of them anyway are readily and fairly easily accessible via, I think, commercial means. You know, by maybe online bookshop retailers, etc. Of course, if you have a really good lending library, chances are you might be able to find some of these works in a library close to you. So I encourage you, if you are able to, for instance, if you have access to this set, as I say, there's a suggested reading list, which is on pages 74 and 75 of the booklet, and it has this really wonderful bibliography, which will in turn lead, I hope, to even further sources of scholarship and academic discussion. And this suggested reading list, for instance, has provided me with the opportunity to see that even in the fields of academic scholarship discussion, there are still very active and lively and quite important debates and issues, points of discussion and disagreement with regard to many of the themes that we see front and center, expressed and discussed so vividly and so fully and richly in many of the works found in Pioneers of African American Cinema. So that is also a very important, I think, road of cinema journey or further exploration, if you are interested. And then, of course, that brings us to the films themselves that I think are included in the set, that are just, simply put, each of them in their own way, in its own way, I think shows a certain facet or side or aspect of the times in which they are made. Certain details emerge with regard to the production and who made these films, or who individually or in terms of a group made these films, production studios, who made them, who appeared in them, what are the implications regarding such appearances, such representations? What are the other, say, social and contemporary implications of the particular timing of release, etc., and creation? Also, the levels of cinematic technical craft in terms of, say, presentation and story structure, in terms of editing styles, treatment of chronology, I think, and the idea of differing in various, say, environments or settings that are then combined together to form oftentimes very vivid and quite provocative arrangements of cinematic chronology, etc. Again, this is all down to, I think, editing techniques and also technical aspects of cinematic style. And this style can emerge depending on the filmmaker that we are speaking about. And so we have mentioned, or we have seen, a number of very prominent voices of cinema that are in the spotlight, each in their own way. So this too also emerges. So we have the individual voices of cinema during this period, 20th century American cinema. And so this is, I think, another very fascinating, important aspect of not just film watching and cinema watching, but also film and cinema history. So, and speaking of that film and cinema history, we do get a wonderful, I think, cross-sectional representation of, say, silent film era works as well as sound film era works. And as they each, and also too, we are. It reminds us too of the point about film preservation and the importance of film preservation, and about how a lot of the films that are mentioned, maybe some films that are not featured, maybe filmmakers some of whose films are featured here, but then we understand that there are other films from same such filmmakers whose films have not survived, and so we understand too this type of tragedy or this issue which comes up in terms not just of the cinema, not just in terms of film preservation, but in fact the surviving works of cinema, and how this is a very delicate thing indeed, because, and in fact, it also leads to discussion about how our contemporary notions of what, quote unquote, what cinema is and what cinema history is, of course, that has a lot to do with what works of cinema are surviving. And if we have great works that were acknowledged, say, at the time, with records, say, of newspaper reviews, etc., contemporary writings, etc., maybe maybe celebrating their great crafts and their great achievements, but these films have not yet survived, then what is the focus? What happens in terms of contemporary viewpoints on cinema and cinema past? I mean, this is all a very complex and a very important discussion, and a journey into the works of pioneers of African American cinema, I think, touches upon those points, I think, very, very well. And then, of course, too, this leads to, I think, links to historical and social and socio-economic themes and concerns that are also on display. Again, these films, say, from the silent era, from the early part of the 20th century into the 1940s, and then what each time period brings with it, and then the context of race and race representation, and the various discussions, themes, or sub-themes that fall within that context, I think, are touched upon in these films in a very interesting and engaging way. And again, also depending on the filmmaker too, we have different ways in which these themes are engaged with. For instance, maybe one can draw certain parallels as well as certain distinctions between, say, the way in which certain issues of race and race representation are depicted in the works of, say, Spencer Williams, versus how they are depicted in the works of, say, a filmmaker like Oscar Micheaux. There are similarities, but there are also really striking differences. And so I think depending on not just the filmmaker, not just the, depending not just on the story, not just on the time period in which the film is being made, but also on the voice, the filmmaker, do we get similar yet also distinct and differing voices in terms of the discussion of race and race representation, and in the context of contemporary history and the contemporary times in which those films were made. And then and then how these similar yet differing voices, I think, add yet further insight and illumination into this very important discussion, as well as being films that I think are, as I say, they're showing certain aspects of a command of cinema craft. And there is a real drive. There's, in many instances, a drive of a true sense of pure expression. I mean, these artists, we understand, are working oftentimes maybe under certain limited resources, and yet they are able to produce these works that are undeniably and so thoroughly their own voices. And this is, I think, a testament to the power of the application of cinema as a type of method, independent cinema being a method or mode of self-expression. And this is a very powerful tool. It's a mode of powerful self-expression. And that self-expression focusing in on points of, say, social and historical context, as well as providing points of, say, entertainment value and action and excitement, suspense, drama, romance, mystery, comedy, you name it. It is all here. And so we get entertainment values, we get wonderful stories, we get vividly portrayed characters, and we also get the themes and currents and discussions of the times, both past and present. This is one of those powerful, powerful links. And we are reminded, I think, of those links. We are reminded, yes, to this very day. And so I think that makes a discussion, an exploration of works in this series, not just fascinating from, say, a historical perspective, from a perspective of film archiving and also film preservation, but also from the perspective of today's times. And so there is this universal aspect to the themes and concerns and discussions and modes of entertainment and expression, and indeed modes of cinematic expression that can be found in the works that are included in this brilliant set, Pioneers of African American Cinema. And so as my final comment, I should say that if you have not had a chance to see these works in this series, again, curated by Jacqueline and Juma Stewart and Charles Musser, then I strongly recommend. I recommend it. This has been so valuable for me. I've learned so much, and I know that I have so much more to learn. I have just barely begun to be able to even hope to understand these very complex issues. But a set like this and collections like this are providing the means by which hopefully I can get a little bit closer to a better understanding. So I cannot stress enough just how strongly I can recommend a set like this. Again, if you haven't had a chance to check it out, please do so. And for me, I will, as I say, I've had the great honor of exploring a lot of these films many times. I've gone through this set so many times. It's been, you can see maybe the box is a little bit frayed, not a little bit, quite frayed in the corners. That's due to opening and closing, going through it, reading through the booklet, trying to watch the films again and again and again. And that oftentimes, it's hard to get it. It's hard to, for me to get everything. So I try to watch it again and again, try to get it as much as possible. But still, I have a long way to go. And so I will continue to examine and re-examine and re-explore and re-explore these films. So for me, the cinema journey is it doesn't end here, but is in fact ongoing, and it will continue for many years to come. That cinema journey for me being those films included in this set, which is Pioneers of African American Cinema. So, my dear friends, thank you Thank you very much for joining me, accompanying me on this particular journey. I have really appreciated your company. I have appreciated your comments, and I have just, I really thank you so much. It has meant so much. Really, this means so much to me. I thank you. So, with that, I hope to see you maybe elsewhere. There are other discussions that I hope to have on this channel. But in the meantime, my friends, whatever the case may be for you, in any event, I wish you all the best. And please, please be happy and healthy and well. And please keep on watching a lot of great, 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 great movies. So until we meet again, stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.